Thank you very much. So I want to believe that we all had a great week. Uh, we are going to the very last chapter of this class. Okay, but that does not mean that we have ended. We'll still find time to look at some questions. Okay, because the class supposed to end maybe sometime, but we'll still find time. Okay, so from next week now, we'll be looking at some past questions together because I've had several calls, several instances where there's popular demand that we need to have what we call how to answer questions that relates to AAA in ICAN examination. So I've dedicated time for that, and I'll still dedicate more time. Okay, so don't be bothered. Let's just finish with this chapter, right? So by next week, we are going to start with the questions. I promise that we are going to solve a lot of questions, more like revision class. So that will prepare us well ahead for the exam. All right. So today we are looking at chapter 6, which is the last chapter of the syllabus, right? Tentative until when I can study text for AAA is out. It promised that it's going to be out by end of August. So if it's out and I see that there's any changes in that study text that I have not incorporated, if there's any, I will also find time to incorporate it in the course of the revision. Okay, so that every area would have been what would have been covered, so as to prepare us well ahead for the examination. Okay, with that said, let's start. This chapter is chapter 16, looking at application of information technology in auditing. Now, this is an area that uh, ICAN is focusing on now because you can see that the new syllabus, the percentage given to IT audit has increased from 5 to 10% now. So that means there's every likelihood that a question or two questions might come out from this aspect, that is aspect of IT audit. So you have chapter 7, some parts of chapter 7, you have IT audit, which we talk about the UBIT and the CAT, right, in chapter 7. So this chapter is essentially on IT audit, with IT related audit. So, and these are areas that you can easily get cheap marks, okay, because the questions asked around this area are usually direct. All right, so let's uh let's just keep up. Let's just be attentive. Please mute all mic should be muted so that there will be no distraction. Now, we are looking at how information technology has impacted the audit environment. Please, all mic should be muted. Mr. Emmanuel, that how does please, thank you. Mute your mic, thank you. All right, so let's continue. So, impact of information technology in the audit environment. Now, you agree with me that the emergence of IT, right, has impacted more positively in the audit and assurance environment than ever before. Okay, and it's still impacting as I speak to you now. As I speak with you, it's still impacting. So, for in the meantime, these are some of the areas that the new technologies have impacted the audit and assurance services. We are going to look at them one after the other. The first one is the cloud-based accounting system. I hope you can see my screen.
Sorry, sir. No,
Is my
no, we
screen
can't
shared?
see. No, no. It's showing has started screen sharing, but it's not showing from my end. I don't know if it's applicable to
I've already, my screen is already shared.
I saw it
Let me
initially, but I
reshare.
cannot
Don't
see.
worry.
We can see it.
Can you see it now?
Okay, yes, it's up now.
All right, thank you. So, as I was saying, the IT emergence of IT has impacted and is still impacting more in the audit and assurance services. Okay. And these are some of the areas that it has impacted. The first area is cloud computing technology. What do you mean by cloud computing technology? Now, before now, right? Organizations have been using different accounting softwares and ERPs. Okay. Accounting softwares, they are different from ERP, right? What's the difference? The accounting software, as the name implies, these are softwares or programs, right, that are used, right, to perform basically accounting tasks, such as posting, generation of journals, um, preparation of financial statements, That is all. Okay, some of them we have inventory, right? All of those things. It's basically accounting activities, accounting transactions that you use the accounting software to perform. Now, this has its own limitations, right? So there has been an advancement in that led to the development of ERP. ERP means Enterprise Resource Planning. Why is this so called? It's so called because unlike the case of the accounting software that is strictly for accounting activities or accounting tasks, an ERP is a broad-based application, right? That warehouses every other function aside from accounting. So in an ERP, you have the HR module, you have the IT module, you have the sales and marketing module, you have the procurement module, right? You have the accounting module. You have different modules on an ERP, and every department or every function can be performed concurrently without having any interruption or disruption. So that is a more robust application compared to the accounting software. Now, prior to now, organizations, what they do is that this ERP or the accounting package, they always have, we call it server on premise. That is, the organization will dedicate a room basically to warehouse their server. Server is like a central repository system for the organization. So everything you need to know about the organization, I want to process on the computer, they are contained in that server. So all the applications, everything, whether it's Exchange server for your mail correspondences, right? The intranet, right? Or for the extranet, or you want to use the ERP or the accounting software, all of these are programmed and stored in that server room. We call the place server room. Most organizations, the place is usually restricted to only the authorized users. So mostly is the IT guys or IT department or IT team that normally manage the server room. That was what we had before now. Now, because of this advancement in IT, right? This server not faded away. Why is that so? So one of the reasons that led to the clamoring for a cloud server was the fact that once you are out of the system, once you are out of the premise where the server is domiciled, because we call it server on premise, when you are out of the premise or location where the server is domiciled, it is impossible for you to access resources that relates or information that relates to the organization. So it makes you redundant. You're not able to use the information. You're not able to have access to the information you want to use to make decision or for planning. So, and imagine you want to take a decision on an information or on some transactions that you need to do online real time, but you are not at the place where the server is domiciled. What happened is that it will not be possible. So that was one of the things that led to the advancement of saying that rather than for us to be investing resources in having server on premise, why can't we have cloud server? So cloud server is the same thing as cloud computing technology. So what that means is that this affords us the opportunity to have access to any information that relates to the organization online real time without what? Without any disruption. It's as though it's as though the server is in your room or it's at your fingertips. Okay? So what that does is that it makes it easier for even the auditor when he wants to audit. Because one of the things that we discussed in chapter 7, we talk about audit software. Audit softwares are usually in the client database. We call it the server or the repository. So it's domiciled there. So what it does is that the auditor must not come to your premise, okay, to get any information that relates to his audit engagement. It can be anywhere and have access to the information. Why? Because the client is operating a cloud server environment. All right. Even the auditors too, the audit firms also, they have also embraced that technology. So that affords them also to be able to work anywhere. And one of the things that led to this change was the COVID-19 era, where there was what we call social distancing. Auditors could not visit their client environment, business environment. Why? Because of social distancing. So as at 2020, 2019, 2020, most of the audit firms were auditing their clients online real time. They cannot afford to go to the client because of the risk of what COVID-19. So that's one of the reasons why the cloud computing technology is developed, and it makes it easier for the auditor to have access to the client information online real time without without any disruption. I hope you understand. I hope it's cleared. Are we all together? Can we fire on?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. We go to the next one. Artificial intelligence and robotics. Now, this cannot be overemphasized because if any one of us, anyone that is in this class now, and is claiming ignorance of AI or robotics, then that person is living in the medieval era. The person is living in the Stone Age. Everybody, as we speak now, ought to have embraced AI. And the advancement in AI, like I said, cannot be what overemphasized. In fact, where it's even going to is even beyond humans' comprehension as I speak to you now. They are taking it far beyond your imagination. But now let's bring it home to our audit and assurance services. Now, what we mean by this is that AI usually means artificial intelligence, that is a system that is fashioned, that is designed to replicate or to mimic human brain. Is to what? Is to mimic human brain. Is to work as though it's human that is working. That's why we call it artificial intelligence. At the earlier stage, we used to call it artificial intelligence and expert system. What that means is that that system has been so designed that it can hardly make mistakes. That's why we call it what? Artificial intelligence. It can what? It can hardly make mistake because it's a smart technology. It has incorporated what? Smart technology into it. So it cannot, even if there is a mistake there, it will correct it itself. So it makes the work to be what? Seamless. So for auditors, what they use it for is this. You will agree with me, for some of us that are working in audit firms, some of the tasks the auditors perform, they are what? They are repetitive. Okay? They are what? They are repetitive. And some of them are even mundane, meaning that when you do something for several times, it just becomes like, oh, it's just for me to just vouch. Let me just vouch. Let me just do someone. Let me just do this. So because all of those tasks that are repetitive and they are mundane, such tasks has been designed to be handled by the AI. So all those repetitive tasks, they design it along the what? The AI functionalities. So that while the auditor is focusing on strategic areas in the audit, the AI will be assisting in some other areas that are repetitive. What are those areas that are repetitive? Let me give some instances. Now, when you go to audit your client, some of the documents you request for, we call it what? Contract. Okay? You ask for your client, since the last audit, how many contracts have you engaged in? Contractual agreement, they'll bring it to you. Most times, some of these things now are sent to you via what? Using soft copy. They use WhatsApp or they use email to send it to you. Right? Even if after they've signed it, they will scan it and send it to your email. Now, rather than for you to be looking at the contract one after the other and looking for areas that you see there are non-conformances or where there are gaps or where exposes the organization or your client to any form of risk, what do? You deploy all of these contracts. You use the AI technology to review the contract. Use what? Use the AI technology to do what? To review the contract. And you are going to do it in such a way that is based on your artificial intelligence prompt engineering technique. What do I mean by artificial intelligence prompt engineering technique? So there is a way you communicate on using AI that will allow you, that will afford you the opportunity to optimize, okay? To optimize the benefit of using AI. AI is as smart as the person using it. I must be frank with you. If you are asking questions in a dumb way, you're asking dumb questions from the AI will give you probably a dumb answer. That's the way it works. So the AI responses you are going to get is as intelligent as the person that is keying the prompt. Because for you to ask AI to do anything, you have to give it instructions. So if the instructions you are giving the AI is not smart enough, it's going to impact on the output you are going to get at the end of the day. So you tell the AI, review this contractual agreement, highlight all the areas that are of best practice, or highlight the areas where it exposes the client to what? To any risk whatsoever. You upload all this contract there. And what it does is that within few minutes or hours, it's going to generate a report. So that will have saved you over a couple of hours that you would have dissipated reading and racking your brain to understand the grammar or the application of grammar or the use of some technical terms in the contractual agreement. It would have afforded you, it would have saved you a lot of time. Imagine looking at about an organization where the contract they have done in 1 year is about 200. How many hours do you think it would take you to review the contract? Yes, you might say that you want to apply something. Yes, you might apply something. How will you know that the ones that you have not picked are the ones that poses more risk to the client? How do you know? To the client business? How would you know? So what we do is that we upload to the what? To the AI software. All right. Or some, like I said, most of the uh parts that we have now, computer assisted audit techniques, the audit software that we have in audit firms, most of them now, they have embedded AI in them. So what you do, upload it and provide the right prompts. Before you know it, the report will be out and it will have saved you a lot of time. You can also use it when you want to carry out what we call trend analysis or even ratios. All right. Now, what we will do for you is that we allow you to do what? To quickly make some comparison. All right. It allows you to do what? To make what? Comparison. So by making those comparison, it will afford you the opportunity to be able to well, for you to be able to have a better understanding of the trajectory or the trend in which maybe expense or asset or some instance where you need to perform further audit procedures, it will be known to you as a result of what? The use of what? AI. Now, you also need to have at the back of your mind that AI cannot replace human entirely. There are some decisions the AI will not take for you. Like even at the initial point, you are the one that is going to preempt, you are going to impute what you want the AI to do in the first place. The AI will not be, is not that smart to say that, okay, I know what to do. No. You have to direct, you have to instruct, you have to guide on what you want to get out of the AI. So that's why I said that humans cannot be completely eliminated when it comes to what AI. And there are some tasks that the AI cannot do. It has been programmed to carry out some tasks. There are some areas it needs to wait for further instructions. And that is where the human interference will come in. Now, human interference will come in at the more strategic areas where the AI might not be able to function effectively. The AI is used for audit and assurance mostly in those mundane and repetitive tasks, those tasks that are manual, those tasks that does not warrant much thinking, much critical thinking. You use the AI to do all of that. Now, the much strategic ones, right? What do? You are going to use your experience over the years to provide insight or to make recommendations or to add value, okay, that will be implementable by the client. Hope you understand that. So that is what AI does. I'm limiting AI to audit and assurance services. I would have loved to go outside this, but the syllabus will not appreciate that because outside the syllabus, if I start talking of how AI has impacted engineering, how AI has impacted sales, how AI has impacted all this, I would have been going out of scope. But what is expected of me to be done is to look at how AI and robotics have impacted the audit and assurance services. We are still going to talk more about robotic process automation. What I just explained now, I said that the AI will take aspect of those repetitive tasks is related to what we know as what? Uh, robotic process automation. Okay? So what it does is that it makes it easier. For instance, just to bust our bubbles, right? There are some applications on our phones, in case you don't know, that you can transcribe a manual entry into what? Into digital files using your phone. One of such applications on your phone is Google Lens. What you just need to do is to write, maybe you have something like a stock out report, usually manual. After you have written it, you just open the Google Lens and scan as if you are scanning that particular document. Before you know it, it converts that document into digital files. By converting to digital files, that will have saved you the time to input one by one the entries on the spreadsheet, on the Excel spreadsheet. And this will have saved what? Lot of time. All right. So that's what we mean by artificial intelligence and robotics. The next one I want to look at is blockchain technology. What do you mean by blockchain? Now, blockchain technology is still at the novel stage. Novel stage means it's still at the introductory stage. We have not, we are still learning. Okay, we are still learning the opportunities or the use or the uses of blockchain technology. Now, the one aspect that we all are familiar with is just a bit, it's just like a drop in the mighty ocean, and that is the cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is just an aspect of is an aspect of blockchain technology. Okay. Now, when we talk about blockchain technology, what we mean is that it's a form of technology that allows for what? That allows for um, transparency, accountability. We talk about blockchain, that's what it means. So let me explain it. Take, for instance, your Excel, because like I said, some of these things you have here, if you don't work in an IT environment, you might not appreciate it. And that's why I'm trying as much as possible to try to visualize it, to paint the virtual picture of it. Okay, so that you cannot be carried along. Let me give an instance. So you have your MS Word. Maybe your boss send an MS Word to you, right? Once this document is sent to you, for those of us that are using MS Word or maybe Microsoft Office generally, once it is sent to you, once a document or a spreadsheet or a presentation is sent to you, if you go back to the file property of that document, the property, right? You see that that document has a name of the author, the person that generated that particular file. That person's name is imprinted therein. Even when you change it, when you update it, sometimes that file name, that author will still remain the same because it's the person that originated it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Now, that is one limitation that's one limitation with the MS Office. Okay. Now, what makes blockchain technology better than Microsoft Office? Something like that. I'm using that as an example. Now, with blockchain technology, what it does is this: it allows for what we call distributed ledger system. What do I mean by distributed ledger system? Somebody send a document to you and you want to update it, right? Now, what it does is that at that material point in time, when you're about to update it, right, it's going to send like a message. It's going to send what? A message to the originator, the person that sent that file to you, that, oh, somebody wants to modify, somebody wants to edit the document that you just shared. Can you grant access? Would you like the person to modify? That is the way it's going. So what that does is that will give you the opportunity to give what? To give access to person to modify that document. This cannot just modify. You know your word. When somebody send a document to you, you can only change the title. You can change the name of that file to whatever thing. The person will not know whether you have changed the name. But this one, before you change it, it will send. All these things happen in split seconds. It's not something that is going to take like 2 hours. So split seconds. Person will get signal. Somebody wants to update. Somebody wants to modify. Somebody wants to edit your document you just shared. Are you granting access or not? So once you grant access, the person will be able to what? To do the change, to modify, to edit. So what happens is that when you now go to the properties of that document, what you now see, you see the originator, the author, you see the person that modified. If there are going to be 20 people that have modified that file, all their names, all their usernames will be mentioned therein. It's not going to only bear the author's name. It's going to bear all the people that have modified that document. The time they modified it, everything will be there. It gives something like an audit trail to that file. Okay? So what that means is that it allows for what? Transparency. It also allows for what? Accountability. Okay? It allows for what? Transparency. It allows for what? Accountability. But one major challenge that we have found with this blockchain technology is that the world, or let me say the business environment, they are yet to understand the dynamics of blockchain technology. Even the government, they have not understood the dynamics of blockchain technology. That's the reason why they are banning it in countries. That's one of the reasons why it is becoming unpopular in the business environment. But like I said, it's still at what? At the learning stage. But when it is fully embraced, it's going to allow for what? Traceability, and it's going to enhance security. So that's what they mean by blockchain. So that one that you are talking about, cryptocurrency, is just an aspect of blockchain technology. It's just like a drop in the ocean. So, like I said, as far as this syllabus is concerned, the scope of this syllabus does not extend beyond what I've just explained. Okay? Does not extend beyond what I've just explained. So it's now the onus on us is now to be able to read over this aspect. And with this explanation I've just provided, read over it and try to watch, comprehend it more. If you have any question, you can ask your question on these ones that I've explained before we proceed. Any question, comment, observation? Question, comment, observation? Are we good to go? Please respond. Are we good to go?
Yes, sir.
Right. Thank you. I'll take
Yes, sir.
Olawale
Well done,
Yetunde
sir.
as the response for everyone. So go to the next area. which is what? The social media technology. This is it here. Social media technology. What do we mean by social media technology? Now, this is another area of IT that has impacted our audit and assurance services in a long way. Prior to the advancement or the introduction of the social media, audit firms, right? When they give you when you look at their documentation, okay, the audit control material, their documentation, their business card, right? You see the address of their offices there. Okay. You only see what the address of their offices. Now, the physical address of their offices. Now, with the advent of social media, some of these have been what? Have been replaced. In fact, audit firms these days, some of them, they don't even include their physical address in some of their correspondences anymore. Why? And even they include it, they also included what we know as what? Social media handles. Like the Facebook. Facebook is what? Follow at, okay, or follow something, follow follow PWC, something like that. That's what you have. So every of these social media platform has their own what? Has their tag. Instagram too, they have their tag. LinkedIn, they have their tag. WhatsApp, they have their tag. Okay? Now, all of these I mentioned, they are aspects of the social media platforms. So what that does is that it makes it easy or easier for the audit firms, right, to dish out or to disseminate what information to a wide array of what young 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 professionals. Now imagine you go to a website, or you just see let's say a comment, and in that comment they included what we know as what hashtag. Hashtag means follow at or something at WhatsApp. Once you click on that hashtag, it takes you to the website of the audit firm, where you'll be able to have a better or deeper understanding of what the audit firm does. What are the services that they render? So that it's going to be like an avenue to what? To advertise. It's going to be what? An avenue to do what? To advertise. So you know that the generations we have these days, the Gen Zs, right? They like soft life or soft work. Right? I have for them to say, let me go to the audit firm to go and inquire, to make an inquiry. What would they do? They just look out for the hashtag. Once they click on the hashtag, it takes to the website of the audit firm. You see all that you needed there. You proceed to what? Consummate whatever um uh engagement you want to have with them. And this in itself has further make the audit firms to be what? To be more attractive to the younger generations. To the younger generations. There is no audit firm now that does not have a social media handle. There is none. All the big four, they have. Second tier audit firm, they have. Even the small, medium audit firms too, they started to replicate such. Because it's an avenue to do what? To advertise. We look at advertising and publicity in the earlier on in the early chapters. Let me say that auditors can advertise. This is a better platform for making what? For advertising the services that they can render to the clients. All right? That's what we mean by social media platform. Any question? Any question? Comment? Observation? Any contribution? Are
On
we
my
good to
end,
go?
no.
Thank you very much. So we move. Let's look at this now.
Hello,
Application of
please. I have a
yes,
question on the chat.
please go on. Let me check the chat. What do you have? How does audit relate to blockchain technology? I didn't get it because of my network. Okay. Can you recap? Okay. I will have said you wait till when the recording is out, but don't worry, let me just recap. I was saying that blockchain technology is a new development, that it is still at the introductory stage. What it affords the auditor is that it allows for easy traceability of what? Of transactions. So if any organization has invested in blockchain technology, what they will be able to achieve is that when the auditors come and they want to trace a transaction, they want to perform audit trail or an investigation, it makes the investigation to be what? To be easy to what? To be conducted or to be performed. Why? Because there is a clear audit trail of transaction. Who does what? At what point did it change? You will see everything there. And I was saying that if you compare it to the MS Word or your MS Office, the likes of MS Word, MS Excel, MS PowerPoint, right? Once somebody send a document to you, if you like, change the file, change the document to whatever. If you go to the properties of that document, you will still see the author, the person that originated that document. You will see the person's name there. It's not going to bear your name. It's not going to bear your name. But in the case of a blockchain technology, if it's deployed, right, and implemented, what it will afford you is that as you are making changes, before you make any change, message, signal, chat, some form of information will be shared with the originator of that document, of that file. That somebody wants to make a change, somebody wants to edit, somebody wants to modify, and the person will either grant access or deny access. Once you grant access, what it means is that that document has been what? Has been modified. So if you go to the properties, what you are going to see is that all the people that have made changes, all the people that have modified that document, you're able to see them. And that's why I say that it allows for what? Traceability. And also it also ensures what? Security. Because information that is stored on using a blockchain technology is more secured than any other technology that we have. But one challenge that we faced, like I said, was that business environment, government, right? They have not yet embraced blockchain technology. The only aspect of blockchain technology that they have embraced is the Bitcoin or the cryptocurrency that they have employed. They have embraced. And I was saying that that is just an aspect, a minute aspect of the blockchain technology. That is what I said. All right. Any other question?
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Any other question? We are good, right? So let's continue. Let's look at this area. Application of information technology in audit process. That's the one I explained earlier. Let's break it down. Remember, in the audit process, like I always say, you start with what? Planning. You start with what? Planning. Now, at the planning stage, what do you do? At the planning stage, you talk about trying to gain understanding on the client business that you want to go and audit. When gain understanding of the client business, you're able to know how many audit personnel will be required. You're able to also establish the materiality threshold. Okay? You are going to be able to also understand the nature of the client environment. Is it a computer-based environment or is it a manual environment? That will afford you the opportunity to know how you are going to go about what? The audit. If the environment is a computer-based environment, that will make it easier for the auditor to deploy what we know as what? CAT, computer-assisted audit techniques. It will deploy it, and that will make the planning process to be what? Easy. So the auditor wants to go and audit a client now. Like I said, some of the audit software that we have now, they have embedded AI capabilities in them. So what you just do, once you have all this information into that audit software, before you know it, it's going to help you with the what? With the planning. how you are going to go with the planning of that engagement. Okay. The second area that's also going to assist is in the area of what? Audit risk, that is in chapter 7. And I said that audit risk is what? Any risk is the risk that the auditor will give what? An inappropriate audit opinion. So it's always there, right? Now, what we are saying here is that with the use of information technology, what it does is that it reduces the what? Audit risk. How? What it does is that everything still boils down to the audit software that is available and applicable at the audit firms. What you need to do is that you need to upload as much information on this aspect that you want to analyze. For instance, audit, the financial statement usually have comparative, the previous year and the current year under review. So once you have this comparative, you can upload it to the what? To the audit software. This software will perform what we know as what? Data analytics. It's going to analyze the data, process the data. By processing the data, it will do issue analysis, it will do trend analysis. Okay? Review report. So that report, what we assist the auditor to be able to what? Apologies, the network went off. Okay? I hope you can see my screen. Can you see my screen? Hello, class.
Yes, yes.
Yes, the
That's
network
all.
went off. Yes, the network went off. I was explaining the audit risk assessment before it went off. I said that the only software that is applicable at audit firms now allow for what we call AI. Okay, it has these AI capabilities that can allow for what we know as for data analytics. So by performing data analytics, what you are doing is that you'll be able to carry out what we know as what ratio analysis, right? Trend analysis, and you can even make some other judgments that will allow for what? Perform investigation or to provide more audit procedures in some aspects. It can go on to give you information such as whether the company is highly geared, okay, that can affect the going concern of the business, of the client's business. Okay. So these are some of, and this at the end of the day, we assist the auditor to be able to make what we know as what audit opinion, to arrive at audit opinion that will be that will be that would have incorporated minimal audit risk. Okay, because the opinion the auditor would have expressed would have been such that it will have mitigated or reduced the risk of making or giving the wrong audit opinion. Then another aspect where the information technology has also impacted the audit and assurance services when they talk about the audit engagement in the aspect of evaluation of the internal control. Evaluation of what? The internal control. Now, by evaluating the internal control, this can be done using what we know as what? The CAT, right? Computer assisted audit techniques. Now, like I always say, some of the audit software that we have, they have these capabilities, right? What it does is that it will allow the auditor to assess the client internal control system, whether it is efficient, whether it is not efficient. You're able to assess whether there is IT controls, or whether there are none. You're able to check whether those IT controls are implemented, fully implemented, or they are just there, they are not yet implemented. So all of this will make it possible for the auditor to determine whether the internal control system is strong and effective to ensure that the financial reporting can be relied upon. Remember, we have looked at internal control under chapter 6, when we talk about audit approach, when we look at the system-based approach, right? That is essentially what we mean when we talk about internal control. Now, the next area where the IT has also impacted the audit environment is in the aspect of what? Substantive procedures. All right. Now, substantive procedures, what does it mean? I've said it and I'll say it again. It's a combination of what? Test of detailed transaction and the analytical review procedures. And remember, test of detailed transaction replaced your substantive testing. Test of detailed transaction replace your what? Substantive testing. While your test of control replace your compliance testing. So invariably what I'm saying now is that both compliance testing and substantive testing are no longer in vogue. They are no longer in use. So in place of that, test of control or use test of detailed transaction. And you can also decide to combine test of detailed transaction and analytical review procedures. That will give you a substantive procedure. Now, when you involve the substantive procedure, what that does is that you are combining two things. You are going to vouch and validate transactions. That is one. The number two, we will also to check, right, whether the transactions or the postings in the financial statement, they are accurate, they are complete. Okay? And you also be able to ascertain whether the right disclosures have been made. Right? You are going to ensure that the right disclosures have been included in the notes to the account. Now, you talk about analytical review procedures. We talk about that in chapter 8 under the method of obtaining audit evidence. Analytical review procedures shows what? Possible relationship between financial and non-financial data. Right? Where I said that examples of analytical review procedures are what? Ratios and what? Trend analysis. You are doing comparative. When you are looking at financial, you have the previous year and have the current year. You are going to perform what? Ratio analysis and perform what? Trend analysis. Using the what? Using the software. And that will help the auditor, okay, to have a better perspective as to whether the financial statement can be relied upon. And sometimes also, the audit software, some of them have the capabilities of what? Preparing and serving secularization letter to the customers, to the client customers. What do you mean by secularization letters? Now, when the auditor comes to audit your client, they are going to review the financial statement. Now, like I always say, and I'm saying it again, the financial statement, some of the financial statement can be what? Can be manipulated. A good example is the current asset. Now, current asset, the asset that can be manipulated, one of them is the account receivables. There might not be account receivables. What do you mean by account receivables? Account receivables is the same thing as what? Debtors. So when you make sale and money has not been received, it can be recorded as what? Account receivable. But when the sales and the funds have been realized, you can call it what? Revenue, right? So when you have debtors or account receivables, it might be fictitious because as like an auditor, you should always have what we know as what? An attitude of what? Professional skepticism. You must have what? An attitude of what? Professional skepticism. That is, you must not believe everything that your client presents to you. You must be able to perform what? Additional audit procedure to verify and validate whatever information your client presents. So let's say your client presented that they have account receivables. The work of the auditor is to verify and validate the account receivable balances. By doing what? By secularizing the debtors to be sure that actually the debtors or the customers, they owe the what? They owe the client. And in some instances where it does not hold true, you can still perform further procedures to understand why they put such there. So when you secularize the debtors, you obtain information from them, right? Now that information that you obtain from them will contain the account balances, right? When you now aggregate those account balances, you check it with what you have in the same financial position. If it tallies, that means it is valid. That means you have validated the balances. Okay, and where there are variances, right, you might need to perform further audit procedures. All right. Then the last area that the IT will also impact the audit engagement is in the aspect of what? Reporting. Now, you remember that audit firms, they have different clients, and different clients have different format of what? Audit reports, right? Now, what this does, what the IT does in this regard is that it has different templates that the auditor can use to write the what? Audit report. Even after the auditor has obtained sufficient and appropriate audit evidence, what you can also do is to use this audit documentation, all the information gathered, right? And put it in, upload them on the audit software and demand and request that you should draft an audit report based on the audit documentation. And before you know it, the audit report will be what? Will be generated. Now, this application, this audit software, what they do, we call it application, right? What they do is that it makes it easier for the auditor to be able to make presentation of audit report that can be understood, okay, by the client management. That can easily be understood by the what? By the client management, okay? So that's what we mean by the reporting. The use of what? IT for the what? For the reporting. Any question, comment, observation? Question, comment, observation? I think we are all good, right? Let's continue. Let's proceed. The next thing we are looking at is information technology tools applicable in assurance services. Information technology tools applicable in assurance services. Number one, technology tools for auditors. Some of the tools that auditors use during the audit. One of the tools the auditor use, right? We know it as what? Gantt chart software. Gantt chart software. What do we mean by Gantt chart software? Now, Gantt chart software was Gantt chart originally was designed to address projects, right? Gantt chart was originally designed to assist in what? Project management. That is what Gantt chart is used for. Now, how has that now been dragged into audit? How has that now been used by the auditors? Now, remember that the auditors, when they go for engagement, each engagement can also be considered as what? A project. Each engagement can be considered as what? A project. Because what is a project? Any activity that has a start and end date, or that has what? Milestones, can be considered what? A project, right? Any activity, set of activities that has what? Start date, end date, objective, and milestones can be considered as what? A project. So you agree with me that audit engagement is what? Is a project. All right? Now, what are we saying? Now, what we are saying here is this. When the audit software, when the Gantt chart software is used, right? What it does is that it allows the auditor to plan each engagement properly. It allows the auditor to plan each engagement properly. Why? Because in each engagement, you have a start date of the engagement, you have the audit activities, and you have the what? The audit, the engagement team that will perform the audit. Okay? Now, the auditor, when he deploys the Gantt chart software, right? What the Gantt chart will do is to enable the auditor to plan the engagement properly. So what we'll do is that the tool will enable the auditor to list out some of these activities. Number one, the start date of the audit engagement. Number two, the audit activities. Number three, the auditing members and the tasks to each of them. Number four, the start and end date of each audit activities. Then the next one, the link and relationship between the audit activities, right? Then you have the next one, engagement dependencies. Now, what do you mean by engagement dependencies? Now, there are some engagements that are, there are some engagement or activities that are what? That are linked to one another. For instance, if the task is being assigned to an audit engagement team member, that with the output of that activity will now be the input of the next activity. We say that such engagement is what? Is dependent on the other one. All right. So we also have what? The end date of the audit engagement. And in the engagement also, there are some areas that what? That are highly critical. Maybe due to the challenge of what? Obtaining information or obtaining audit evidence, right? Sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. It will also be due to the involvement of the management and the auditor to get the right information. So we call those parts critical parts of the engagement. So the auditor will also be able to identify those critical parts, because the critical part will go a long way to determine how long the engagement will last. It's going to determine how long the engagement will last. Okay? So the Gantt chart software, it makes the auditor to break down the audit engagement, which is now seen as a project, okay, into smaller activities. The auditor to what? Break it into smaller activities. And at a glance, right, the managing partner and the engagement partner can see at a glance how long it will take to complete each engagement. How long it will take to do what? To complete what? Each engagement. That's one of the tools that the auditor will use during the audit. We call it what? Gantt chart software. Okay. The next tool the auditor can also use is called the risk analysis tool pack. Remember what I said. Some of these tools are embedded or incorporated in the audit software, while some of them are what? They are standing alone. You have to buy them on their own. You have to invest money in them. They are software that stand on their own. Okay. The second one is the risk analysis tool pack. Now, like I said, there is audit risk. Like the auditor will ask the risk of what? The auditor can manage this. And the auditor can manage this when you deploy what we know as what? The risk analysis tool pack. Now, by deploying the risk analysis tool pack, what it does is that it will afford the auditor, okay, to gain all knowledge, understanding about the client business and be able to fashion out ways or design ways on how to mitigate, prioritize, and address those issues. Because the auditor, one of the major tasks of the auditor is the risk assessment. If he's not able to assess the risk properly, then that means the auditor's report and the auditor's opinion cannot be relied upon. All right. So this software or this tool pack, if I can use that word, there are tools the auditor can use to hasten, okay, or to make it easier for the auditor to be able to provide this assessment about each engagement. They're able to advise the client on what needs to be done. So some of these this analysis tool pack, some of them, these are their names here. We have the GRC Cloud Resolver. GRC means Governance, Regulatory, and Compliance Cloud Resolver. We have another one, Spiral Plan. We have Enablon. We have Check It. We have Analytica. You have Risk Management Studio, and you have A1 Tracker. Like I said, some of the audit software, they have this application embedded in them. For instance, the audit command language is an audit software. It has all of these things embedded in them. Caseware is also embedded in Caseware, and also in Ideal. All of them are built with what? Risk management capabilities. Okay? So these are some of the features of this solution, what they do, that is this risk analysis two-pack, some of the things they do, some of the features that they have. One of them is web-based application and good user interface. What do you mean by web-based application? That is, you don't need to install it on your system. You can use just like you type www.yahoo.com. That's what they mean by web-based. You don't need to have it installed on your system. You can just provide the URL, universal resource locator, www.so and so. You'll be able to have access to it. Another thing with that is that it has what good user interface. What do you mean by good user interface? Just like your Microsoft Word. All what you see there are what? Clicks of button and drop down and pull down menu. Something like that. It makes it easier. It makes it what? It makes it interactive. So the essence of good user interface is to make the two-pack, the risk assessment two-pack to be what? To be interactive enough so that I can be able to work seamlessly on the what? On the software. Then it allows for scalability and ease of integration with other solutions. What that means is that whether you have an audit software or you have other applications on your laptop or your system, this two-pack, this risk analysis two-pack can be installed, okay? Can be installed on that same system and they can share it. So that's what they mean by what? Ease of integration with other solutions. That's what they mean by that. Scalability here means that it can be what? It can be upscaled. Maybe at the start, the audit firm started as a small medium audit firm, but now the audit firm has scaled up to second-tier audit firm. So it can also be what? Upscaled. Then it also provides what we know as what? Risk dashboard. What does that mean? That's just a snapshot of all the risk entails. So at a glance, this is mostly for the management or the managing partners, okay? So at a glance, you're able to see what the risk entails, okay? It also has inbuilt support for risk mitigation services. What do you mean by risk mitigation services? These are tools that you can use to reduce the impact of those risks, okay? It gives you some of those, it has inbuilt support to provide risk mitigation activities. The other thing that is also a feature of this is that it allows for what? Risk audit trail. So if any risk has been analyzed, right, it provides a trail of who did it, how long did it take, was there any modification, all of this information are embedded. So it allows for what? Easy traceability. Then it also supports electronic signature. What that means is that you can sign digitally. You don't need to sign manually. That is, with the use of stylus, right? You might have a stylus, or maybe there is an application that will enable you to what? To sign off, whether with your finger or maybe with a stylus. Stylus is like a pen, right? To sign your signature therein to confirm that that has been what? That has been done. All right. Then it also supports generation of report, like I said. So when you use it, right, the report that you get from this risk assessment can be in MS Word format, Excel format, PDF format, XML format, or HTML format. Okay, and it also supports printing and emailing the risk report to various stakeholders. Rather than for you to print it, you can also send it as a mail, the attachment of the risk report to the various stakeholders. Okay, it also allows for, it also supports what? Import and export function. What does that? What do you mean by import and export function? So what that means is that you can generate a report, right, on the risk analysis two-pack. You can also upload from another format, okay, to the risk analysis two-pack, and you do what? You analyze it. That's what they mean by export import. Okay. Then it also supports auto alert system on risk-related update. So if there is a trigger somewhere, trigger one somewhere, it's going to send like an alert, right? It could be maybe a short message, it could be maybe a prompt telling that look into this aspect, you will do that. Then it also supports both qualitative and quantitative risk assessment. Now, when you do risk assessment, you will need some data, right? So those data that will support your what? Quantitative. Support your what? Quantitative risk assessment. Then you have your qualitative. Qualitative means information that you gather. They might not be numbers, right? They might not be in form of numbers, but that information that you have gathered has a long way in impacting on the what? On the risk assessment within the what? Within the client organization or client business environment. Then it allows for data entry. It also allows for what? Data entry, either by paper, browser, or mobile app. What that means is that you can convert your paper documentation into electronic format, okay? And it also allow for you to use your web browser and also use your phone, okay, to upload information on the what? On the risk analysis tool pack. All right. Now, this tool pack, like this risk analysis tool pack, like I said, is an essential tool that the auditor will use when it's performing the audit because, like I said, it's going to enable the auditor to make appropriate or to give appropriate audit opinion about what? About the client business. All right. So that is that on that. Any question? Question, comment, observation?
No comment, sir.
Question, comment, observation? Are we good to go?
Good to go, sir.
All right, thank you very much. So let's continue. Let's proceed. So go to the next aspect now, which is the Nigerian Data Protection Regulation, NDPR. Nigerian Data Protection Regulation, NDPR. Now, this is one aspect that ICAN has barely tested. Okay, this is one aspect that ICAN has barely tested, and the reason is not far-fetched. The reason is that even though this law regulation has been in existence as far back as 2019, all right, 2019, 2015. I think the first law, let me check something there. I'll come back to this one. I want to check something before we go to that one. We'll come back to that one. I'm coming. I want to check something. Okay, we are not there yet. So we are not there in that area. So let's just move on. I just want to be sure. So some other aspects, some popular software the editor can also use, right? Aside from those ones that we made mention of, are the SAP governance, regulatory, and compliance, the Enablon GRC, the Risk Connect GRC, RSA, Archer GRC, Logic Manager GRC. Right. Now, another thing you also need to have at the back of your mind when you are selecting or when you are choosing this risk analysis software are some of the features that they have, or some of the, you have to put this into consideration when you are buying any of these risk analysis tool pack. Number one, how easy can you utilize it? Ease of use. Okay, how easy can you utilize it? That's ease of use. Number two, you need to also check, does it support mobile application on multiple devices? Because you know that these days, the phones we have are smartphones. So it has to support what? Mobile application. You also need to ask, does it have to do with what? Cloud-based solution? And you have to store the information in the cloud. That you have to store them on a physical premise, right? Because obviously, you're also going to consider the cost. How cost efficient is this risk analysis tool pack? You also look at the security. Security here means how secured is the information you stored on this server? Because if any other person, if an intruder can have access to that information without giving access, that means it's a big issue, right? So you need to look at the customer support. That is, when you deploy it and you come up with you have challenges, are the providers of the software, are they ready to provide necessary support 247 in terms of what customer support? And some of the issues we have with some of these software is when you buy it, after you have bought it, when you now run into problems or challenges, to get the seller to provide necessary support, customer support to you becomes a big issue. Okay, it becomes what? A very big issue. So you need to also factor that into consideration. That is, maybe we need to sign an SLA with them that upon the purchase of this software, if there are any issues, you are available and you give a time frame that is within 24 hours, you want these issues to be resolved. If not, that means that the warranty, or sometimes there are some charges that they will make. Okay, the manufacturer or the seller will want to be collecting maybe quarterly or annually. We call it maybe after sales charges, or maybe we call it there's a name they call it depending on the type of the software you are buying. Okay, maybe post implementation cost or something like that. Now you put it there that if we don't get the support at so and so time, then we are going to delay, or you might need to forfeit the implementation cost. All right. They also need to ensure that when you are buying any of these risk analysis tool pack or the risk analysis software, right? You must ensure that it has the possibility of what? Scalability. You can upscale it, and it's also easy to what? To integrate, to work with what? Other applications or solutions. All right. So those are some of the considerations you have to have at the back of your mind when you are procuring them. Then some of the features, the main features or the significant features that your GLC supposed to have, that is your governance, regulatory, and compliance risk analysis tools should have, is that irrespective of the industry, whether you're in the banking, agro-allied, conglomerate, FMCG, energy, or the likes, right? They must have these words. They must have these features. Number one, content management. That is, there's enough room, there's enough space, okay, to store information, right? Number two, document management. Document management here means that there's a proper structure to access what document that you have stored on these applications. When you store something now, then you now want to review, want to edit it, you now find out that that document, you cannot easily retrieve it. It becomes a big issue. And so you upload any document on the application, it should be easy for you to retrieve, right? You also need to ensure that the software or the application, they have what? Risk analysis, risk analytics. Risk analytics is the use of what? The ability of the application to perform what we know as what? Risk analysis, okay, in terms of what? Qualitative and quantitative. In terms of what? Qualitative and what? Quantitative, okay? Then you have the next one. It must also have risk and control management. That is, you should be able to give perspective to the risks that you have identified and provide support on how to do what? How to mitigate those risks. All right. And there must be workflow management. That you should see how the workflow means the processing, okay, or the processes involved when you are trying to maybe generate a report, or you want to edit a report, or you want to seek approval on some report. Okay, we talk about the workflow management. Okay, to see who approves what. Is the MD or is the managing partner, should he be the one to sign every report, or some should be signed by the engagement partner, or some should be signed by the engagement quality reviewer? All right. So all of these must be defined and be seen that they are implemented. Then you must also ensure that the house of audit manager, that is, can perform what? Investigation. If somebody signed a report wrongly, or if the person supposed to sign was one that signed, and you want to be able to identify who the person is, you're able to perform audit trail. And when you perform audit trail, audit investigation, we call it what? Audit management. Okay. Then you must also ensure, which is more important, that your information that you stored on this application, they are what? They are secured. That is, they cannot be hacked. Okay, they cannot be corrupted. All right, that's what we mean by information security. They also need to ensure that it complies with the regulatory means that for every organization, right, you have some organizations that are being regulated by government, that are being regulated by some agencies, okay, or parastatals or institutions. So you must ensure that all of these applications, right, they conform or they are in conformance with the regulators. The regulators do not have any challenge or any issue using some of this application. Then lastly here, dashboard and reporting. That is, at a glance, you're able to see the entirety of what has been done. And it should also be easy for you to generate reports. Now, what I want to mean by what dashboard and reporting. Any question, comment, observation? Question, comment, observation? Are we good to go? Are we good to go? Okay, let's fire on. Now, let's look at e-business. What do you mean by e-business? Now, these are business, the buying and selling that are done in an electronic manner or using electronic media. Okay, buying and selling, the act of commerce that is done using what? Electronic what? Media. We call it what? E-business. Example, the Jumia, Konga, Amazon, eBay, Alibaba, AliExpress. All of these, they are what? E-businesses. Okay. Now, what are some of the risks that you face with using with this e-business? Number one, there's always an issue with what? Online security risk from hackers. There's hackers that want to hack into the system, into the website, and what? Take out information. Then sometimes you also have website downtime risk. Website downtime risk. What do you mean by website downtime risk? There are times the website will not be available. And that will only happen. No, it happens everywhere. Not it can happen. There was a time that the AWS, that is Amazon Web Service, was down. And Amazon Web Service are used mainly by airline companies and some other big companies in the world. So there was a time that their service went down, and that affected uh so many issues, right? Somebody wants to book a ticket now, cannot book because the server is down. So those are some of the risks that we face, right? It also happened at the time it happened in Nigeria also when they first started this Konga uh, Black Friday that normally happened in December. The inaugural edition of the Black Friday in Nigeria, that happened around 2016 there, but you can Google it, right? You can fact check it. What happened there was that, Black Friday in America is the first Friday in December. So if you want to buy anything, the culture in America is that you want to buy anything on that day, you always buy it as the lowest discounted prices. At the lowest what? Discounted prices. So you want to buy like a TV now, maybe a TV now costs about maybe $500 or $1,000, depending on the size, right? On that day, you can get a TV, whatever size, for as low as maybe $10 or even $20. You can see the significant discount that will be enjoyed. Now, we wanted to replicate that in Nigeria. And in US, they do it on the mall. So all the supermarkets, they are the one that will do it. So once it's 12 a.m., most supermarkets in the US, they're always open. So the buyers will just storm the warehouse, the supermarket, and go and obtain those things just for that day. So the sales are usually massive on that day, right? So Nigeria, we don't have such um, supermarket, but we have an avenue where you can do that, and those are the Jumia and the Konga websites. So they said they want to launch the Black Friday edition in Nigeria. That is, you are going to buy anything, you're going to buy anything on their website, and like a 2 weeks, there was a countdown to that event. On the day that is the Black Friday was supposed to start in Nigeria, that was the day that the server of the two e-businesses, that is Konga and Jumia, the two websites crashed. Why did they crash? They crashed because they never anticipated the number of traffic. They not anticipate what traffic. What do I mean by traffic? The number of people that want to log on at the same time to access resources on that website was not catered for. So what that does is that it crashed their website, and that was what led to website downtown time. How did they resolve it? So the subsequent year, what they did is that rather than for you to have this for one day, they spread it for 1 month. If you go and see now, they are already planning to, once it's December 1st, go to Jumia website, go to Konga website, you see that they will start their they call it Black Friday. Their own is usually 1 month. So in every day or in every week, there are some categories of product that will be listed or qualified for you to enjoy the Black Friday discounted prices. And that's what they've been doing since subsequent 2017 till now. All right. So you can have website downtime risk. There's also failure of service providers, such as online payment providers. There are times that Paystack, Flutterwave can be down. Okay, there are times that Paystack, Flutterwave can be what? Can be down. Even OP, sometimes this fintech, sometimes their server can just go down, maybe because they are doing a system upgrade, or maybe there was just an incident, and before you know it, you'll not be able to access, not be able to transfer funds. Okay, sometimes you can also have what we call what website traffic interruption. This one can be linked to the website downtime risk. When we talk about website traffic interruption, means the number of people, the number of users that were logging into the website at the same time can make the resources to do what? To be very, very scarce. And before you know, the server will crash. And that's why you see that most of our telecoms service provider, if you are very observant, if you want to have seamless uh, internet service, try it from 12 a.m. to like 5 a.m. Usually very, very fast. Why? Because there are less users at that time. Most people are sleeping at that time. So the internet services will be very fast and going to be able to get your results of whatever you want to do pretty fast. Okay. But if you do it at a time like, let's say this afternoon, you want to log on, you want to make some connection on the internet, it could buffer for a long time. Sometimes it will just log out. Like what happened in this class now, 2 times now, we have log out. Why? Because of what? Internet disruption or internet connectivity related issues. Then sometimes you also have what we known as what? Credit credit card fraud. Now, if you want to buy anything on the website, it's always look out for websites that are what? That are secured. The reason is this. If you approach a website that is not secured and make some purchase there. Now they will ask you for your what? Your bank details or your credit card details. Once you provide the credit card details and that website is not secured, immediately you just completed your own transaction, you will see that the website, you will see that you just start receiving alert on your phone. Now, before you know it, all the money in your account would have been what? Taken away. So you must ensure that anytime you are trying to purchase anything on the net, ensure that the website is secured. Okay. Then we also have what we know as what? Theft of intellectual property. Theft of what? Intellectual property. What do we mean? Now, if two people develop an application at the same time, right? If two people develop an application at the same time, but one, maybe they work in the same organization at a time, right? Both of them share this idea that they want to develop an application. Now, if one of them was very fast in deploying his own application, which is similar to the second one that is being deployed, what it does is that we call it what? Theft of intellectual property. Because that means that what I'm trying to design, what I'm trying to develop, somebody else has stolen my own idea and has run with it. Somebody has done what? Stole my own idea and has what? And has run with it. We call it what? Theft of intellectual property. Okay. Now you see that some of the AI websites or AI applications that we have these days, you can see that you can see or you've seen some instances where they are calling out one another that this was my initial design, or the other will say that no, I want to buy you over, all of these things, right? Now, all of these things can be traced down to uh theft of what? Intellectual property, okay, if it's not properly done. They also have issues with what some of the other risks that we also have is what? Warranty and return of goods policy or failure, good policy failure. Now, what do you mean by warranty? Warranty is a kind of service or a provision that is provided to customers. Should there be any complaint on the goods that has been purchased, you are allowed to what? To return it. Now, sometimes all these websites, all these e-business, they put it there that you can return your whatever you have bought. It does not fit your specification or requirements. But sometimes it can be what? Frustrating. They'll tell you that this thing will be resolved within 3 days. And you see that the thing will linger on for the next 3 months. So it could be all the risk that are embattled or that are faced when there is a e-business environment. All right. So how do you address some of these? How do you address some of these risks? One of the ways that some of this is number one, conduct periodic and regular IT awareness program. You have to teach your personnel, your staff, okay, some of these strengths that the hackers use to have access to your information. That that will make them to be what prepared and be educated that they have stored on the what stored on the website. IT security policies. Robust IT security policy, including password protection policy. What do we mean by that? So there should be some form of policies and controls that are put in place. For instance, if you are very familiar, there's a need for you to have what we know as what? IPS, okay? Intrusion Prevention Service. And you should have what? Intrusion Detection Service. Now, these are applications that will prevent or detect external intrusions, all right, into your what? Into your website, all right? Then there's it for also another way to address is what? Ensure all services. Ensure all services. I mean all devices are protected with malware. Ensure all devices are protected with anti-malware solutions and firewall. So that means if you are using your laptop, right, you must ensure that your window defender is activated. You must ensure that your firewall is activated. What do you mean by firewall? Firewall is a protection, right? It serves as a bridge that makes it difficult for the hackers to be able to cross and come and access your information. We call it what? Firewall because it's a stopper for them, if I can use the word. It stops the hacker from being able to have access to your what? To your information that is on your what? On your website. All right. Then another measure that can be put in place is it restricts customers' data collection, that is, restricts customer data collection and storage to only those that are needed. That is, when you are collecting information from your customer, right? You ensure that the information you are collecting is information that can be what? That is highly necessary. Okay? It's information that is what? That is what? Highly necessary. Don't go and collect information such as the bank details or the BVN. So that's why it's that most of these e-businesses, they'll tell you that on no account should you furnish your BVN or bank details, okay? Unless you are very what? You are very, very sure that there's no risk there, right? And that method that can also be deployed is to ensure that the software that you are using, they are what? Regularly what? Updated. The software, they are what? Regularly what? Updated. What do we mean by that? Just like your phone. Some of the phones we have now, they started with iPhone 12, right? Some of them are on iPhone 14 now. If you see allow your phones to be on iPhone 10, what that means is that your phone is porous. Your phone can be what? Can be hacked. But when you ensure that, when you have ensured that you have what? You have updated to the current software, what it does is that all the loopholes that the hackers might want to use to have access to your information, you have what? You have blocked everything. You have blocked all those what? All those loopholes. So that's what we mean by what? Update all software regularly, okay? Then ensure regular backup of critical data and application. You must ensure you back up at all times. You must ensure you do what? You back up at all times. It's highly important because when there are disruptions or disaster recovery, right? It should be easy for you to what? To relaunch and pick up from where you stop. It will be easy for you to do what? To relaunch and pick up from what? Where you had what? Where you had stopped. Okay? That's the essence of having backup. But if you are not backup, that means you will have lost all the information. You will have lost of all the information, and that can be what? That can be suicidal. But when you ensure there is what? There's backup. So when there are disruptions, the backup will be what? Will be activated, and your recovery time would have been what? Would have been what? Minimized. Okay? Any question, comment, observation? Question, comment, observation? Are we good to go? Are we good to go?
Good to go, sir.
Thank you very much. So we move to the next aspect. Okay, but the last one there is you must take cyber insurance policy. That is, these are policies that you can take to prevent against what? Against cyber threat or cyber attack. Okay? Then we'll go to the next aspect, digital forensics. Remember, we have looked at forensic investigation and audit in chapter 12, right? Now, this one we are looking at is digital forensics. So it's similar to what we've done, right? The only difference there is that we are looking at it from what? From the IT point of view. So digital forensics, as you have it here, right, is the process of identification, extraction, preservation, examination, analysis of digital information, which can be admissible in evidence in the court of law. So the same word, forensic, which I said that anything that is has capability of being admissible in the court of law, that's forensic. So what you need to understand is that digital forensics is the process of identification. You identify fraud, okay? You extract, you preserve, you examine, and sometimes you do what? You analyze the digital information, okay? That can be possible to be presented before the court of law. All right? Now, digital forensics can be applied in many fields, not only in the aspect of fraud. You can use it when there is what? Intellectual property theft. You can use it when there is what? Bankruptcy investigation. You can use when there is what? When there is forgery. You can use when there is inappropriate use of corporate internet. You can use it for industrial espionage. You can use it for contract dispute. What do you mean by industrial espionage? What do you mean by industrial espionage? Another word for industrial espionage is talking about industrial spy. So somebody will deliberately or intentionally join your organization, okay, as a competitor, unknown to you. The person will be admitted, will be employed as a staff, unknown to you that is working for your competitor. He gets all the information about you and go and release it to the computer. Thereby, the computer will now be able to have what? An edge or an advantage over you. We call it what? Industrial espionage. So the person will come in, gain access to all your information, and share it with the what? With the competitor. Thereby making the computer to have an advantage or an edge over the other party. We call it industrial espionage. Okay? Inappropriate use of assets. Inappropriate use of assets. Inappropriate use of corporate internet. We are saying here is that some organizations, right? There is no restriction on the what? On the use of internet. That is, you can use your internet to do so many things. Aside from using it to do research about your task or activity, right? Some staff, they use the internet to watch movie. They will download Netflix. They will download all these movie app on their laptops. Why? Let's say they are closed by 6 o'clock, they will now start to watch all those movies till like 10 o'clock. They need to ensure that traffic has reduced before they start embarking home. Now, what this does is that you are reducing the you are using the company resources in a wrong manner. Okay. The what that does is that at the end of the day, you are going to reduce the available resources that the company can use to obtain information from the internet. Because even though we call it unlimited, right? There are still some resources, right, that are tied down to those unlimited access that is being mentioned of. Okay, so imagine maybe the organization, and why you, because there's nobody in the office, you're in the office to yourself, you're not watching movie at that particular point in time, or you are playing online game. Now, this is going to make the research that they are trying to do, we prolong it. Why? What's supposed to download within 2 minutes or 2 hours might end up completing downloading after 10 to 15 hours. Why? Because the game application you are playing with on the internet has taken more than half of the resources from the unlimited data that you have for your organization. So sometimes there will be a need to perform what? Inappropriate use of corporate internet audits. All right, and that can be done using what? Digital forensics. Okay. Now, when you apply digital forensics, right, techniques, what it does is that it makes it easy to identify, collect, analyze, and safeguard digital evidence residing in any electronic device used by the perpetrator of the fraud. So you must ensure, like I explained in chapter 12, chain of custody, you must ensure that these digital evidences that reside on the various computer, laptops, or your phones, they are what? They are properly secured to avoid what we know as what? Tampering. Once they tamper with the digital evidence, then they can no longer be what? Admissible in the court of law as what? As evidence. Okay? Then a digital forensic practitioner should be engaged or could be engaged or lured by a corporate entity or any of the law enforcement agency. That is not the way, depending on the nature of the what of the crime, right? So sometimes the law enforcement agency will be deployed. Sometimes a corporate entity will be utilized. That's why you see AFCC going about those Yahoo fraudsters and all those people, right? Okay. Now, when performing digital forensic investigation, it's important for the corporate practitioner to follow the same procedures as the law enforcement officers, since since his work might equally be used as evidence in the court of law, regardless of regardless of whether the case is of civil or a criminal case. Okay, or a criminal case. Any question? Comment? Observation? Now, let's look at some of the importance of digital forensic techniques, okay, to the auditor. So when the auditor applies digital forensic, what it does is that it assists the auditor to identify, extract, analyze, and preserve computer evidences and related material, okay, in order to present them as evidence in the court of law. In order to present them as evidence in the what? In the court of law. Right. Number two, it helps to suggest the motive behind the crime and identity of those involved. That is when you deploy it, it allows you to know the reason, the rationale behind the act and the people that are involved. Number three, it helps the investigator to ensure that digital evidences obtained at the crime scene are not corrupted. So they must ensure they safeguard all the information. That's the chain of custody I'm talking about. Okay, it must not be tampered with. Then it also assists the auditor to recover deleted files and deleted partitions from digital media. You know, sometimes you might say because the organization will try to hide, so it deletes some files on the laptop or some files on the system, on the phone. There are softwares that can be used by the auditor to extract those deleted files for what? For analysis. All right. Then it can also assist the auditor to extract digital evidences and validate them. It's not only important for you to just obtain the digital evidences. You also need to what? Validate. Validate means you have to confirm that this information is correct. All right. Then it also helps the auditor to identify the evidence quickly because you are using what? IT, which is what? Very, very fast. Then it facilitates the presentation. It facilitates the presentation of a computer forensic report that offers a complete report on the investigation process. So at the end of the day, you're going to generate a report. And in that report, you're going to talk about the observations and provide recommendations where necessary to prevent the reoccurrence of such. And lastly, it helps the auditor to preserve the evidence by following the chain of custody. I'm talking about chain of custody, and I'm still talking about it now, and I hope it is clear. All right. Question, comment, observation. Question, comment, observation. Remove. Let's continue. Now, digital forensics also can support the objective.
No question.
All right, thank you. Digital forensics can also support the objective in a fraud investigation case. How? With digital forensics, we're able to determine the actual time of the fraud because you have time stamped. Okay, you have what? Time stamp. Now, what do you mean by time stamp? If you look at your CCTV, let me use CCTV to explain it. If you look at your CCTV, right? Your CCTV always have time that is reading. So when a crime is committed, that particular time, that minute that crime is committed, you can see it on the CCTV. Okay, you can see it what on CCTV. Number two, it enables the auditor to determine the exact amount lost. But at the end of the day, you will to carry out audit trail. When you perform audit, what will you do? You're able to determine how much money has been lost or involved in this particular investigation. Number three, it is used to identify those involved in the fraud. So obviously, because of the audit trail, you're able to identify who and who are involved in the fraud. Like the one that happened in First Bank last year, right? It was last year. It was last year where the head of IT made away with over 42, is it 42 billion naira or so. The head of IT, he resigned. Nobody detected it until 2 months after and detected that he was the one that made away with that money. All right. It's also used to determine the location where the fraud was perpetrated, just like the case of that First Bank also. They're able to unravel which location, which branch was find the control lapses that made the fraud possible. Just like the case of the one I just said in the First Bank case now. The head of the IT resigned and processes were followed to the letter and nobody detected it. And need to be need to be revised, need to be reviewed. For them not to be able to detect it, that is a big control gap. Right? Then the next one is that to obtain evidence another use of the digital forensic is that it allows for what? Obtaining evidences, okay, that can be used, that can be accepted, that can be presented in the court of law. All right. So those are the uses of the digital forensics. Then we come to this side, processes of digital forensics. The digital forensics has the following processes, okay? Just like every engagement, you have to plan. You will have carried out your preliminary risk assessment, okay, to identify the purpose of the investigation and be able to identify the resources that are required and also what evidences are present, their locations and how they were what? They were stored in the format, whether they are stored on the external hard drive or they are stored in the cloud or wherever, okay? The editor should be able to develop theories and scenarios regarding the crime. Number two, collection and preservation of the evidences. The forensic auditor must ensure that the evidence obtained, right, they are what? They are isolated, they are secured, and they are preserved. Number three, the auditor must also ensure there is proper documentation and imaging. What do you mean by that, right? There are some documents that will be obtained to back up, okay, the event. Number two, there could be times when you need to make some snapshots. You have to snap pictures of those events for what? For reference purpose. So whether you are using documentation, you are taking snapshot or photograph, okay, as evidence that can be taken before the court of law, you must ensure that the images are well secured and they are not what? Tampered with. Both the images and the documents, they are well secured and not tampered with. Then the next thing, you also need to examine the document. It's not enough for you to just gather documents or to obtain digital evidence. You need to also scrutinize those evidence and see which one are actually relevant and reliable for the forensic auditor to utilize to arrive at his work acceptable conclusion. Okay? Then we need to what? Write a report. So at the end of the day, the auditor will write a report. In his report, the forensic report is going to talk about his observations to forestall future reoccurrence. Okay? Then at the end of the day, where where the information were obtained, sometimes they will need to archive them. Okay, they will need to do what? Archive the information to the original location so that for future references they can be what? They can be accessible, they can be made accessible. All right? So we are going to stop here for today. We'll continue from here next week, okay? I'm going to continue from there next week, okay? Does anybody have any question, comment, observation? Question, comment, observation?